A few weeks ago, oh, P.S. Welcome back. Welcome to the club made by highly sensitive creative humans for other highly sensitive creative humans who are wanting to double down on something in their life, but they know that means that they have to reduce something else in their life. Usually that's self doubt, negative self talk. Sometimes that's overachieving and overthinking and overdrinking and overing. But sometimes it's just learning to manage the super emotional, easily dysregulated systems that are still totally manageable. Now, a few weeks ago, I told you why, when there's a problem in your life, you want to be the problem. And I told you that being 100% of the problem meant that you got to keep all your power. And it also meant you got to be 100% of the solution. When you give your emotional well being over to anyone else's care or any event's care, when you think something or someone else can make you feel something or think something or do something, you give away your agency, your personal power. And then when you feel awful, that is your mindfulness bell that you are caught in this loop, this thought error, this emotional regulation system that is going, this thought doesn't do me good. Or worse, it can be a whole loop of thought errors. And I know, you know, it can spiral us down fast. But it's one thing to say you want to be the problem, and an entirely different thing to feel and be inside of the experience of being the problem, leading the group, leading the choir, trying for something new and messing up. And here's the twist: when you are taking full responsibility for your life and you decide to do new things like this, and the part of your brain that wants to grow, despite the part that says stay the same or conserve calories and don't do any, just stay on the couch. When you're doing it, when you're in the act of making the mistakes, accidentally causing harm, being the problem while you're trying to be of service, that can be excruciating. And if any of you were in attendance last Friday and got to witness me at our Q2 special live retreat, either in person or on Zoom, you saw me go for something, do my best, make some mistakes, and unintentionally cause some damage. I caused harm and I didn't mean to. I never mean to. We never mean to. So I want to talk quickly and recap that since we were in the final days of April this week and then we started a whole new month, we've kind of had a big momentous changeover. But to use this real-time example of me making a mistake and our final days of rewriting stories as an example of how to move and process through things together, if you think about it, the opportunity is pretty miraculous because we were following 4 steps throughout the month. I've said them in different ways, but we were first coming and saying the raw story as it is occurring in our mind. Now, I can't give you the raw story because I've already given the raw story, and this is the recap. So it won't sound as raw today. It'll sound a little bit more polished because by the very nature of being with it, I have now gotten to know it and worked with the story of my mistakes. But I've decided what to keep and what to rewrite, and we had a beautiful conversation. And then I decided to get to work looking for evidence that the rewrite was even possible, that supported how this can serve me, the group. And then whenever I saw evidence coming up, I used the evidence for me, never against me. So those are the 4 steps. But before we begin moving through those steps once again together, I want to address something very important that is already come from some of the incredible wisdom that some of you as members brought through Friday, the Q2 retreat. And that's the difference between sympathy, empathy, and pity. I feel this is mission critical that we as a culture understand what this is and the difference. And we all have different ways of defining it, but it's important to know because when you are applying sympathy or empathy, or God forbid, you're going with pity, it's important to use the right medicine to heal the right wound, right? That's important. So, like I said, we all might have different definitions, but the purpose of right now, or for the purposes of right now in the club, going forward, I want to set the container. Here are going to be our working definitions of sympathy, empathy, and pity. Sympathy is a feeling of concern and of shared sorrow, yes, but it doesn't require you to share the emotional experience. You do not have to have walked through that same path. We say things like, I'm so sorry, but often it means, if we're being honest, I'm so sorry, but I'm not there. I have never been there. And I'm maybe even kind of glad that I haven't been there, but I'm still sorry for you. That's just the raw, honest truth. Empathy, on the other hand, is a little, for me, deeper and wider. Empathy happens when we actively connect and understand and share the emotional experience from our own past. We can say things like, oh, yes, I totally get that. I get where you are. And that's not the only place you're going to be, because I've lived to tell about it. There's more. Pity, on the other hand, is the detached feeling of sorrow, and whether you feel it or not, it often lands on the receiver with a sense of superiority, or they feel belittled. We might say something that we mean lovingly, like, are you okay? Or do you need a hug? And that's coming from, if it's coming from feeling sorry for the person, and we're subtly really not glad that we're there too, that nobody needs that. Nobody ever needs that. I want you to consider that. Now, you might have different definitions. I'm happy to hear and coach through what your thoughts are. Now, I want you to know that at no time in the club, going forward or now or in the past, future members, present members, anybody, I do not believe that pity is necessary. But I also want to acknowledge that when we feel pitied, it also doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's being offered by the giver. So it's nuanced, and we need to bring these things into the light, not let them live and fester in the dark. So as I move forward in today's recap, I want you to know that what I'm going to say about what came up in my mistake making last week, at no point did I let myself go all the way down to everything's gone wrong. And I stayed true to that. I'm grateful for every opportunity that I could learn and grow. Okay. So what I'm about to say, you do not need to come on here and make anything better. You are not responsible for my emotional well-being. I almost cried on Tuesday, could come again, because emotion is there. Now, hear me say, in 1,000 ways, we had a truly wonderful retreat. Many beautiful things happened, and we missed everyone who couldn't join us live or on Zoom. But for those who were there, it was lovely. And I worked harder at this Q2 retreat than I have ever worked out at a quarterly retreat yet. And I intend to keep working hard, because I love you, I believe in you, and now I believe in this more than ever. But I made some mission critical errors. So the raw story that's now become understood better by me and others, if I were to do the step one, though, of saying what went wrong, what my mistakes were, was number one, I did not set the container and establish safety for us as a group. And I've been working for a long time to set containers and be a safe space for others. So it showed me where I still have work to do, where I can get still too excited and too desiring that people get something, that I forget to say, here's what this is, and here's what this isn't, and here's how this is going to go, so y'all can feel safe. And it is work that I happily do because I want to become better. And I'm so grateful for your forgiveness and the space to do these mistakes in. But I didn't know that I didn't set us up to know if it was time to learn, time to discuss, time to share, or time to get coached. And that is very important. So I vow I will be doing better at what things are and what things aren't in terms of a container. I also didn't set the group up for a transition that has occurred in and behind the scenes of leadership, and that caused confusion and distress. And I want to tell you real quickly again that Melissa, many of you, I see many of current club members as capable and possible to step up, and I believe fully, from promoting from within, hiring from within, building something from the inside out. But sometimes timing is different. Sometimes abilities are different. Sometimes the way the alignment works out is different. And Melissa has stepped up a time and time again, both with time, with ideas, with financial offerings, that, like, whoa, we've got an opportunity here. And many of you have offered many things. And I'm working very quickly to see how can we make this all come together. So I didn't set you up to see that Melissa had taken some steps. We have taken some steps. And this week I gave you stories of some things that I've learned over time about Melissa that you don't know about her and her ability to hold groups, to call hard things into question. And she was acting as a timekeeper. So we didn't communicate well whether I would be coaching and allowing space to be gone into, or if she should keep us right on time, which she did. So both Melissa and I learned a lot, but that was my bad on setting the whole group up to understand what was going to happen. So when we're surprised, when there's something that our nervous system isn't ready for, that's dysregulating. That can even be traumatizing, or at the very best, a little dramatizing, right? So I told some stories about Melissa. You should go watch the replays for that. I'm not going to recap those, but know that this girl is a powerhouse. She's got an MBA background, she's got a coaching background, and she has held some presidents of some companies to task. And she has marched her booty into very big, important offices and said, let me in the door. She's courageous. She's taken risks, and she can support you and me at the same level. The third mistake I made was I accounted for intimacy. I know our group is intimate, but I didn't test for intimacy in a way like testing for sound with a microphone, testing for time intimacy, testing for agreement amongst the group of how things were going to run, being both live and on Zoom. I was so busy trying to be the caterer and the audio visual technician and the coach and the leader and all of the things that I blew by some testing for how intimacy was going to be able to be held. And that means a lot to me, because when breakdown occurs, repair first begins with me acknowledging what's important to me, being communicative and open with y'all, and consistently showing back up as a safe, empathic human being. So I am here, I am open, I am always here to hear what's going on. And if you say now's not the right time, then I will be here when you're ready. So we're making transitions in the club as we begin to grow, and we've been building for many months, and I'm here for all the things that come from growing, even when the growth is being tested and our strong foundation is being tested. So then by the nature of me having to come and help my mom through a very major surgery, Melissa then took the reins, and I don't know what happened. I can't wait to hear the recap on what happened. But today what we talked about, as we are coming together on this momentous beginning of a brand new month, is that we moved through both a tough situation. We are able to rewrite stories so that we can grow from them. And now we've stepped into a new possibility where the first one of us has come forward and substitute coached, or I don't know what happened yesterday, but something happened and I wasn't there. So we're in a new realm of possibility where y'all can step forward. I don't know if you're up for workshops. I don't know if you're up for coaching, but we're going to start exploring that. Now, thank you all for doing what you did, whatever it took to be there without me as I helped my mom through the surgery. She is home. Thank you for your words of care and kindness. And she is sleeping in the other room right now. So the funny news is that while she was delirious on pain meds, she was talking all about the club and all about how everybody in the nursing office should sign up for the club. So we know that we need some nurse coaches and some people who understand the creativity that comes from being of such great service, like medical staff. All right. So we've also been fortifying ourselves and learning how to rewrite stories of the past. And one of the reasons we were doing that, and we're still open to doing that, is because now we're going to take a very cool turn and start looking at rewriting stories of the future. You heard me right, not just writing the future, rewriting the future. And I say rewriting because our amazing human brains already have many preconceived notions and thoughts and ideas and stories about how the future is probably going to go. It's usually accidentally because we're misfiling the past in the future. It's just a little filing error. But if we're not careful and we're not aware, if we dive right, we will start living right into those past stories into our future. So if you love your stories, keep them. If you don't love them, this is what we're doing. We can build something new. We can change something. We can become something by getting intentional about possibility and writing that into our story and leveling up unintentional preconceptions. So write this down if you're in the right and kind of mood. Consistent, courageous action, CCA. Consistent, courageous action is something we're going to be looking at a lot this month and in future months. Because I don't know about you, but when I look at my past and I look at all the times when I really was taking a leap of faith, think about the times when you were doing something new and different. And anytime I made a big, significant change, almost every time I was ever being courageous, I didn't know I was being courageous. I wouldn't have been like, hey, I've got lots of courage right now. I just thought that what I was doing was something that I had to do. It felt right, even if I felt scared or it felt weird or awkward. It felt inevitable, like I had to do that. It didn't feel courageous. It felt like that's what I had to do. And I'm willing to bet you have done this too. One time, many times, I don't know. But you've acted so courageously that if you were to think of doing something like that now, you'd pee your pants. You'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Think about these moments because we all come from innate power. We all have our own flavor of queen energy. We also, yes, have our own flavor of weak and scared too. That's just who we're usually, that's the loudest. So we're relating to that part of ourselves often. But I gave you some stories today. My favorite one being that we all came from a sperm and an egg, as far as we know, science, biology wise. Now that means if you came from both a spermie and an eggy, at your essence, both collaborative and wise and queen bee, and completely competitive and freaked out and frantic. Sperm. They are racing, survival of the fittest, first one to the queen, we have been taught wins, gets in there. But that's not the whole story. It might be that we need to remember the queen essence of ourselves, the egg part that we came from, all the eggs that actually are running the show. Because this is, maybe you didn't learn this fully in biology. You might have only learned half the story. The real story of this egg and the sperm. We were taught the egg was passive, just waiting there for the sperm to swim, and that the sperm was very active and competitive in getting there. But that is not the whole truth. Yes, the sperm raced to the egg, but it's not the fastest or the fittest necessarily that wins automatically. That came from a more patriarchal conquest version of the story. Guess what? The egg is not passive. The egg chooses, my friends. She sends out signals chemically, hormone, putting themselves together in an organized way to attract the sperm she wants. She sends out chemical signals to slow down the ones that are not a proper fit, the lower quality, and she helps the ones speed up that she wants to come closer faster. She gets in contact with the cervical mucus and the fluids so she can kick out the low quality sperm while elevating the high quality. We're talking her body, her choice at a cellular level. And it's not just survival of the fittest. It's about collaboration and compatibility. Once she, the egg version of you, the queen version of you, chooses, do you hear the metaphor, my friends? Once you choose the story, once you choose the business, once you choose the path or the creative endeavor, or maybe just what you want to focus on in your life right now, when the egg chooses, she shuts the rest down. She literally pops their little heads off. She decapitates the sperm that are not going to be the ones. She kills off the options. She has been running the show all along, and this is part of your essence. So today we begin our monthly series of doubling down on something that you want to choose, be that your business or something, your safety, your creativity, by reducing and eliminating the things you choose to reduce, be that self-doubt, negative self-talk, wishy-washy, indecisiveness, fear, panic, dread. So I'm going to be referring to it as double your business by reducing self-doubt by 90%. But you get to choose. You be the queen to decide what you're putting that into that. And then we get to work making all the evidence work for you. Here's how we're going to do it. Tuesdays, we're going to keep co-creating with you and me and you know who as we hone our focus and laser in on our mindset. Wednesdays, you will bring it to me where you're going to happily apply that focus. Well, maybe it's not happily. That word just came out of my mouth. Maybe it'll be begrudgingly, but you're going to decide how it goes. Thursdays, that's the day we're going to shift a little. Come on Thursdays if you want to put onto paper, onto your calendars, the next 7 days of the consistent, courageous action. And we might even put them on our simple simmer. What do we call it, Melissa? We didn't call it spreadsheets. We called it like a sideways to-do list on steroids, right? Sideways to-do list on steroids. We won't say this today, the spreadsheet list yet. Then we're going to be in communication in our new community portal that is coming soon to a theater near you. You don't have to go out there and plaster it on Facebook, but we might if that's what we end up deciding to doing. We're going to be helping each other stay awake and alive to the consistent, courageous action that we're taking. So I'm going to be bringing you on Thursdays and putting things onto a simple spreadsheet or a to-do list on steroids. So it's as good as done. You're going to start getting to know yourself between you and you, as if I said that's when I would do it, that's when it got done. Just like you would meet me for coffee at a certain time. So we're going to start next week going into different exact stages of burnout that you might be identifying with and how you're going to naturally see which areas of your life, your business, whatever you want to apply this new wisdom to. And then on Thursdays, we'll be deciding exactly when and how you're going to take them on each day. So get yourself some sort of physical tracker, maybe beads in a jar. I've got bubble apps if you want to fill in, or bubble trackers. There's apps out there, whatever floats your fancy. So come on today and you're going to tell me, or actually when we go into the coaching today, I'm going to give you a very specific path, a very specific container of how you're going to be the egg and decide and choose, and then use this next 7 days as very fertile testing ground to see what obstacles come up. I'm going to ask you what you want to decide on and why. I'm going to ask you how important it is to you, and I'm going to ask you how committed you are. Don't worry, I will guide. You don't have to write this down. We're going to figure out what's going to get in your way or potentially get in your way and what you're going to do about it. And then we'll put that sideways to-do list on steroids and onto paper as with each other. And we'll coach on all the stuff that comes up, because here's what I want you to hear before we hand it over or bring Melissa on. Whoever said, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, was out to lunch. They didn't mean that. What they meant was, if you do what you love, you'll feverishly bust ass every day for the rest of your life, and you will both love, hate, and then love it again. To ask me how I know, it's not about not working. It's about working in what you want feverishly, vehemently, passionately, and never giving up until you get your results, right? So, Melissa, tell me, what the heck? Why did nobody show up? Did everybody plan that? Was that like a joke on me? Like, let's not show up and she'll think that the whole thing got ruined.
I was just busy in a one-on-one session with another club member.
Oh,
and
okay.
We were trying to wrap it up, but we 9:03.5 we showed up.
That was you. All right. So how was Wednesday and what went down?
Wednesday was good. It really is a testament to you, Kendra, I think, for the desire to keep the club going. I mean, here you could have easily just canceled the club. You have a lot going, something important. I think every member would have understood, but it was important enough for you to pass the reins and have someone keep things going. So I just think that it's such a testament for the future of your dedication for anyone in the club that, like, this isn't going away tomorrow. If Kendra says that we're meeting 3 days a week, that's not changing anytime soon. I mean, things will change. Yes, we're figuring out what works, right? But just the fact that what you've been doing for so long, you're not walking from any of this, which is really...
And I don't know about you, maybe you can talk about this, but when I was first starting to learn the motivational triad and how my brain works, stuff that I didn't learn in school, I didn't learn in therapy. Therapy is good. Remember, we love therapy here. There's nothing against therapy, but therapy kind of brings us from the past to the present, healing old wounds and helping us stay present. And coaching then takes the reins to what we want to bring into the future. But I had to fortify myself. I had to be on listening to podcasts. It was like a language I was learning, immersing myself every day. And so to offer that live, a lot of those high ticket coaches were like, sure, you get on, you don't even get one on one coaching for once a week. If you can't make that time, still you got to pay the money. And like, that did not work for me at all. And I would counsel anybody or coach anybody to consider not doing that until you learn some of the skills and have immersed yourself in the language so that your brain, you can start working with your brain. So, what did you guys do on Wednesday? What happened? Give me a
Yeah,
recap.
it was the last day of the month, and we, as you know, had spent the whole month working on rewriting stories. And so I paired the Monday, Tuesday, when you were talking about a mistake, with rewriting stories. And I think it's very tempting to rewrite your story after the story is complete, after you're through it. But what I did was I applied the four-step process of rewriting the story as you're going through and navigating a situation or a mistake or some tricky situation. That four-step process is so handy that it literally helps you move through situations. And so I basically provided an example and a story where I got called out in my own life. It was you know, very big to me. Sounds small, the example I gave, but for me, my head was spinning days and I had a hard time kind of breaking out that cycle. And this was actually a story from 5 years ago before I found coaching. But when I looked back at what I ultimately ended up doing, I was navigating into a version of this four-step process. And that's how I was able to get out of it. So I basically told that story and open it up for, I kind of set, you're talking about setting the container of coaching and all of that. Well, without you and people not knowing how I coach, I decided to set the stage of more like a discussion. Let's have comments. What do you think? And what was really neat was I invited people to share mistakes they had made. And we have such a loving, comfortable, safe space in this community that people came on and they shared struggles and mistakes they've made. And it was really neat watching those people tell the story through. And by the end, they could really see their strength in the situation. When you look back, I mean, sometimes we don't look back and rehash and tell a mistake we've made, right? You kind of don't want to think about that. But you could see by the end of a story being told that there was really kind of a confidence, like a strength there. And one gal in particular was the first one to come on, and it was the perfect example of having your own back. She laid out her story and basically not having such, we talked a lot about conviction. When you have conviction in your beliefs, your business, let's say, whatever it is you're working on, if you have conviction, that can keep you strong where your foundation
Mm.
less likely to be rocked. And so it's a perfect example for everyone to like show how you can have your own back and stay true to, um, your efforts, your desires, whatever it is.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so that's a bit about what happened on Wednesday.
Wow, interesting. And so it sounds like it was more like a community forum or a community discussion being held and facilitated by you. But and that's kind of a cool segue into the community portal that is just getting ready. So, um, and I love hearing that everybody was a really safe space or a very loving kind of open mind, because I know we have varied political views, we have very varied religious views. That's never the thing that we have to prove here. It's how how our minds are using it for us or against it. It seems like.
Yeah. And
And
it was having so many people pop on, share a thought or two, and then we move to the next person. It was a neat kind of discussion across everybody. And who knows? I think in the community portal, we might be hosting more of those because sometimes
mm,
you want a comment or you want to discuss a concept that you're teaching, for example. And you don't necessarily need to get coached in that moment. Um,
Yeah, I learned a lot, like even just technologically, that I was able to still see what happened in the chat. And one of the questions that I'm not sure if you all addressed it, or it definitely gives me ideas for the future, was is it our job to have empathy or sympathy, or like what do people how do people approach that? So I really liked seeing the questions that got brought up from just people being real and honest. But it
yeah.
sounds like it was a more wide discussion rather than anything going really deep, for lack of a better way of like we everyone got to talk and contribute.
I think yeah, I mean, we didn't go uber deep on any one person, for example, but sharing the stories, and I think it was still a conversation that had depth,
Oh, of
because
course, of course.
group, we just didn't go in deep into like one
Yeah.
person example because the stories that were told were more things that had happened in the past. I don't think that they really needed to be rewritten at that point.
Mm.
But yeah, because this the example of using these 4 steps as you're going through is like something you can carry into the future. But uh, yeah, anyway, it was good.
That's awesome, and I don't mean depth in the sense of like not deep, but sometimes it is important to go wide, to cast the wide net, to even understand the points of where depth would be most beneficial to the group. So I really appreciate that's the form it took. I didn't know the form that it was going to take, and I can't say thank you enough to all of those of you who showed up and you for taking the reins. That I can only imagine that was scary and took courage, and maybe it didn't feel like it took courage. It just felt like, oh, that's what needs to happen right now. So I would have been peeing my pants if someone who had a program, led a program, was like, hey, can you do it for a minute? Thanks. Bye.
Well, I loved what you said actually. When you're nervous, you said it to me and you said it to another gal today. Uh, when you're nervous, it just means that you care.
Yeah.
And that really resonates. It's true. Yeah, you're nervous because you want to do a good job or you want it to
Yeah.
go right.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think I hear 5 stars would recommend to eat here again.
I sure hope so. Yeah. What was I going to say? One person did share that it was really neat to hear one of your concepts being explained by someone else that it kind of sunk in a different way.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
kind of neat. So thank you for the opportunity for me and for the group to learn together. So it was
Yeah.
great.
Well, we don't usually get to see you on an evening call, so thank you for being here. And I think the next time we will get to hear from you, I need help once again for a post-op appointment that just got scheduled today, and we can't move it around. So um, our spreadsheet, our sideways to-do list on steroids queen will be back doing sideways to-do lists on steroids next Thursday. So I will set you up for how to bring something and really get used to like, let's get this on paper, because one of the best ways to see your future story and make it, create it as you go, is to line it out in an organized way. Your nervous system can relax around it. Your creative mind can actually start to visualize it as if it's already happened versus, oh my God, this new scary thing that I have to get all my energy up for. It can happen so much more organically. So that's the recap, y'all. Let's pause there for now and go to coaching and happy hour.